feeling a bit like Alice? Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
Curiosity often leads to trouble.
Aren't you ashamed?
No, I'm not.
Who the hell do you think you are, lady?
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Think I'm entitled? You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Wait, that's Alice. Alice.
I'm awake. Are you? Let's go now to our new episode of the Unfiltered Rise with me, Heidi Love.
Heidi, how are you doing?
I am good. I am happy to be here and I love chatting, and just in general, I'm a chatty person. So this is always fun for me.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to this. I'm super stoked that we were able to meet on the tavern, which is super cool.
Yes.
Although I have heard you on multiple other shows before that. I was pretty stoked. Actually, the first tavern we were on, I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, no. And I'm like, Heidi Love. Like, why does that sound so familiar? Like, why is it? It's just super familiar to me. And then I'm like, oh,
you know,
shit.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get people excited, I guess, because it's a weird phenomenon not being in it for very long. I think I'm on episode number 9.
Well, like I said, I'm in the
woo.
same boat. I'm in the same boat.
Yes.
And we're gonna grow together, and we're gonna
Yes.
watch each other,
Definitely
touch
we'll
the firmament.
We'll be 109 pretty soon, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
Anyhow, so Heidi, you are the host of the Unfiltered Rise podcast, correct?
Yes.
Awesome,
Unfiltered
awesome.
Rise.
So for any of
Because
you guys,
I don't water anything down. Yeah.
I like that.
Nope.
I like that. No watering down. No, what's the other? No dilution. You're not diluting anything. It is
Nope.
what it is, right?
Yep. And a lot of people that do Mormonism specifically, when they get out, they're like, oh, well, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And we want to be really, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but they're like, we don't want to be disrespectful. That's the word they always use. And I'm like, I know, but that's like saying, we know you abuse someone, but we're not going to say the details. Like that's not okay. Yeah. How does that bring truth to light? That doesn't.
Let's not call this guy a pedophile because we don't want to hurt his fucking feelings because he's out there touching little boys.
Right.
let's call him a minor attractive person. Yeah. Fuck
Right.
that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's so weird. Oh my gosh. And stuff like that. I'm just so blunt of a person. Like normally if I'm in trouble, it's because of how I said something, not because I was wrong. And I get it all the time. And I'm just like, this is how I am. I don't know. And it is what it is. So
that's important too, because that's something that even I have an issue with. When I'm speaking to other people, just in general, it's not what you said. That's not the issue. It's how you say it. And I'm still
many
struggling.
people they get offended. Everyone's offended all the time.
Snowflakes.
Yes. And even if they're not that, even if they're like in the middle, I just feel like it's okay. If you're going to listen to my show, because now this is where I am careful. If somebody says, hey, what kind of podcast do you do? And I go, are you active LDS Mormon? Because I live in the Mecca. I live in Utah. I'm not trying to ostracize people, and especially people that I know. So I will say, I don't think you want to listen to that. I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable that way, because I'll warn them. But then if they listen after that, hey, it's no holds bar. You knew what you knew.
Yep. I feel you there. I've had, we all have families, right, that are into different stuff, and we have family members that are gay. Which I don't have, I personally don't have an issue with. However, when we talk about like the LGBTQ alphabet army and we talk about all the other shit, like I don't want it to be, I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend you, but at the same time, like it is what it is, man. If you don't,
Right.
you're
You
gonna
have a
listen.
feeling. Yeah.
And so there's certain
Yep.
people that I will say, like, I don't think you should listen to this one.
Right. Right.
It's
I do that.
I don't want to lose, I really don't want to lose family over it. But then again and again at the same time,
And again.
and again, like if you're not, I don't know, like I feel like a lot of the stuff that I speak is truthful, at least
Yes.
my truth,
Mm-hmm.
which can
Yep.
vary from person to person. But I've spent a lot of my life being very quiet, and I kind of still am in
Mm-hmm.
a sense, other than when it comes to the podcasting world.
You're an
I try to be,
introvert. You're an
yeah,
extroverted introvert. You're extroverted
yeah. There's
introvert.
some things I just don't talk about with certain people for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the podcast game, this is my time. This is my therapy. This is where I can say
Right.
what the fuck I want, when I want, how I
Mm-hmm.
want. And if you don't fucking
Yep.
like it, then fuck off.
You don't have to listen.
You don't
Yeah.
have to listen.
Nobody.
So
Yeah. Change the channel. And that's how I feel. I'm like, well, okay, we even with our daughter is gay. And we're like, hey, we know that this is your lifestyle. That's okay.
yep,
But we don't support that movement. It has nothing to do with you
no,
or what
yep,
you do. It's the movement. And
hmm
she doesn't even support the movement. She's like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. And I'm like, yeah, well, they support some weird stuff. Like, just
are
like BLM, like I'm not about that,
nope.
but my niece is black,
I have black.
but
Yep,
I'm not about that.
nope,
Yeah. So I'm
nope.
like, no, that's not what I think is good.
Are you
So,
familiar with the on Instagram gays against groomers?
oh yeah. Oh yes.
That right
Yes.
there is
Yes.
awesome. Like I have like fucking
Yes.
rock
So
on.
good.
Becky
Yes.
Weiss. I don't know if you know who Becky Weiss
Yep.
is.
Yep.
She's a beast too, man. I love her. I
Yes.
love her because the gay thing is not the issue. The issue is you're
That's not
putting,
the problem.
that's not the problem. You're pushing this on my children, which is why my kids are now homeschooled because I'm not going to
Yes.
fucking put up
Right.
with it. I'm saving
Yep.
myself, potentially getting arrested because if they were
Yeah.
at school and that shit's going down, I'm not going to be silent and I am not going to be
Mm-mm.
happy. And it could be, well, this guy's violent and fucking who knows. So I just
Right.
like, listen,
Right.
we're gonna cut the head
Yeah.
off the snake before this is even an
Yep.
issue, and we're gonna homeschool, and then we can teach our daughter, that all
What you
that
want.
stuff. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well,
And
that
so
we did that too. We did that with our daughter. Most of my kids are done. I have one that's in high school and then one little straggler that's 9. And so she has really bad ADHD and they just wanted to keep I'm losing you.
you're
There
good,
you
you're
go.
good. You're still gonna be
I'm
able to
like,
hear
okay,
me. You'll still be able to hear
you're
me,
good.
but we'll
Okay.
it'll
You're
stop.
fine. And then so we decided, the way they were handling her, the way they were doing things with her, the way they wanted her medicated, and we didn't like that. We did it. And as a nurse, I went down that road and I'm like, this isn't for her. I'm not saying it's not for anyone.
Yep.
I'm saying for her, she's not okay. She's a rapid metabolizer. It's not working. And we pulled her out and we put her in a Montessori school. And that's only 3 days a week. And the rest is up to us. So here we are. And I was so pissed. Yeah.
Now,
When I pulled her out, I was just like, come on, we're leaving. Like, no, I'm done,
it's liberating, in my opinion. It's liberating.
Yeah.
Like I when people are like, oh, you homeschool your kid, let's go, dude. I'm going to tell you all
Yes.
about it because
Yes.
I mean, I went to high school. I went through the whole thing, and I turned out all right. But now knowing like the stuff that they're teaching,
Yeah.
absolutely,
It's changed.
It's a big fuck no, and it has changed. It has changed. But like
It
for us,
has.
like we're not, Novak's
We're not
my
sheep.
youngest. Yeah, we're not
No,
sheep.
we're no vax. We're no
Nope.
vax.
Nope.
Yeah.
And my kid too. My 2-year-old never been poked with nothing. My oldest, my 7-year-old, we weren't aware of all this at the time.
Right.
And I remember one time I was at work, my fiance took her to her doctor's appointment, and I was like, do not give her, I think it was the flu vaccine. Do not give her that fucking flu vaccine. Well, she ended up doing it because the doctors bullied her into it and pretty much was like, hey, if you don't want to if you don't want to give her the shot, then I need you to sign this document, pretty much saying that you're like neglecting your fucking kid.
Oh wow.
She got the shot, her arm, it looked like a I don't even want to say mosquito bite on crack. It almost looked
like a huge
like a Black
bite.
Widow bit her. She ended up getting,
Oh
after
my
that, she ended up
gosh.
getting scarlet fever.
Oh my gosh.
Which, when I heard that, I'm like,
Wow.
scarlet fever, isn't that something like back in like the fucking 20s or
Right.
30s? Like, I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
even know it
old
was a thing.
school.
So yeah, since
Holy.
then, that was it. When we had our last daughter, Ellie, 2 years
Yes.
ago, and I went in there. I was with my fiance throughout the entire time. I told the nurses and doctors, listen, don't ever ask me or her. Don't even ask, because you're wasting your fucking breath. Do not
Mm-hmm.
ask. Answer is no, and the more you ask, you're gonna piss
Right.
me off. I'm gonna make
Right.
your time here at work a living hell. I can promise
Right.
you. But don't ask.
Well, and
The answer is
they
no.
can't bully you like they did her and put her in
Yep.
a weird.
Yep.
I feel like with women, it's I with my older kids, they all had the traditional vaccines.
Yep.
But with my second daughter, she didn't get things until later because I had started as a nurse going down that road. And I was like, okay, I'm okay about the vaccines, but not right now. You're overloading her immune system. So she didn't get anything till she was 3. And I had her at home, so they didn't get a chance to bully me. I had her in the living room. I was like, bruh, this baby was born and she's fine. And
That's the way to do it.
so I wouldn't do, I don't know if I'd do that part again, knowing what I know, because man, if things go wrong, but nothing
Yep.
did. Nothing did.
Thank
I
God.
did have my midwife. I had, like, I followed with a doctor and, all the things. But after her with my son, we did partial. I got behind on him. It was funny. And then I had to sign an exemption because I was behind. And he is my healthiest child. He is my healthiest kid. And I'm like, you can't tell me that this isn't some sort of
Connection. Yep.
collaboration here. Yeah, like he's so healthy and these other kids struggle and they're like, well, you have all these problems. I'm like, yeah, but what about my son though?
How do you
And so
explain
with our
that?
daughter, same thing. And we just, the mRNA stuff, like I'm very traditional on the old school ones, but like, don't even come at me, bro, with the mRNA
Yep.
technology. I don't
Yep.
even care if it will cure me. And I am a cancer survivor. You could tell me tomorrow, if I got it back, this will cure you. And I would say, thank you anyway.
Yep.
I'm not doing that because I have no idea what's in there. And I'm not a peon when they say, oh, you just went on TikTok. No. I'm a nurse for 24 years. I read the JAMA studies. I read everything. I study everything. Ryan Christian is my favorite podcaster. He breaks everything down and he puts it all on like blast. And I guess favorite podcaster in his genre, like he's news, like there's
What's
other
the name
ones
of
like
what's the name of that?
Christian.
What's the name of his podcast?
Oh, the Last American Vagabond. And he is shadow banned off everything. You have to go to his website. They kicked him off. I found him on Spotify, and then all of a sudden I went on there during, the thing from 2020 that will never go away. I went on to find him and I'm like, hey, where is he? He started talking about PayPal froze his assets on anything he had. They took away that. They took away everything. Like they literally made him start his own. But it's good now because, he can do what he wants. But he's a deep dive. And the thing I love about him, he puts every single source at the bottom and you can click it and go and read it for yourself. All the studies, like JAMA papers, medical papers. For me, that's valuable as a nurse. I'm like, hey, this is awesome. And not just medical stuff. He did the train derailments and he does a ton on like what's going on with the whole giving all our money to Ukraine and just everything. He does a lot. Yeah, it's so good. If I ever get an interview with him, I'll be Dork City. I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's been a couple of times hopping on with certain individuals where I'm like, I'm gonna need to have a drink or two prior to like settle my nerves.
Yeah, Dork City. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I try not to smoke. Sometimes I smoke, and then when I smoke, I'm like, so I try not to do that. But there's definitely a couple times where I'm like, I gotta throw a few back so I can just get the mood right.
You're like, it's gotta happen. If I did that, it would turn me into a psycho. I get so crazy paranoid because I have like in my past history PTSD. So I can't. It makes me I'll call the cops on myself probably.
Well, speaking of that, speaking of the PSD, let's get into a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So your background and and
Sure.
being
I'm
in the
an open
Mormon
book.
cult, and I'm interested.
Yep.
So I mean, you start wherever
So
you want to start.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so my PTSD is from a different thing. Do you want to know about that too?
If you want to
Or do you
share it,
want
share
Sure.
it, you're more than
Yeah.
welcome to.
I haven't got into that very much with people yet, but I think it's good because it talks about kind of why I became what I'm doing right now. And
Perfect.
so when I was little, my mom was in a very abusive relationship. And so they have something called the ACEs score. So you can look this up online, and the ACEs score is like, they'll go through, it's 10 questions, and they ask you like, what traumas have you had happen to you in your younger life? And so my ACEs score is 9 out of 10. And that's only because I don't know if I was molested, because I have so many holes in my memory that I really don't know from like a childhood, like really young, probably anything before 10. And so anything before 10 is like the best days ever. Like, yay, it was Christmas. I do remember that. Or the worst days ever, like when my mom got her nose broke and blood was going everywhere. Like, and so it was just something else. And I was always a caretaker. I always took care of her. She had multiple breakdowns because of that relationship. And my real dad was in prison. So like there wasn't a whole lot of options for me. So I became a ward of the court by the time I was 12. So I had a rough go of things. I always look at my life and say, well, okay, my life went one way and my brother's life went another way, and my brother's gone. And due to that life change, he didn't process it, and he didn't do that caretaking. He didn't do that stuff. And so for me, that was huge, because I look at like I was more picked on. I was more this or that because I wasn't his natural born child, the guy that was trying to kill my mom, basically. And I sometimes think it was a blessing, because for me, it made me really resilient and able to help people. And so one thing that did help me when I was little is my parents were Mormon. We'll say Mormon, but they weren't what we would call active in the church, because they drank and smoked and got so they couldn't be in the church and go and do all the things. And so my neighbors, who were really good to me, they were like the best people. They really brought me into the church. And when you're a little kid in this church, and this is a huge thing that I maybe haven't spoke about as much on other podcasts, when you're young and they teach you all these things and they envelope you in love, and they help you and they're there for you, and like all this special stuff. You're special, like you get these special blessings, you get these special this and that. So you feel really loved and indoctrinated in this church. And from the minute you can talk, basically, I remember being like 4 years old, 5 years old, you get up on the stand once a month on testimony meeting. You don't have to, but many people get up there and share their testimony, and they say, I'd like to bear my testimony. I know this church is true. And we'd see these little 4 and 5-year-old kids get up there and they say this stuff. And I'm like, they don't even know how to say testimony. They don't even know what that means, 4 years old. But you think when you're in it, you're like, oh yeah, totally. Oh my gosh, he did so good. That's so sweet and cute. And now that I'm out, I'm like, wow, that was some hardcore indoctrination at an early age. And then they teach you these songs like, I'm going to go to the temple one day. And it's like this little song about the temple, and you're so happy about it, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I'm reviewing it in the rear view going, wow, this is from like really young. Then when you're 12 years old, you go to the temple for the first time. And the temple is not a place, it's not like a Jewish temple. You can't just walk in a Mormon temple or be there or worship there. That's not how it goes. So you have to be worthy of everything. You have to have like no coffee, no tea, no promiscuity, which not saying those are bad things. They're not bad. Okay. The coffee thing is weird, but no drinking. Yeah. No, none of that. No drugs, but not prescription drugs, because the church owns a lot of prescription drug dividends, and that's one they definitely push. And also, you shouldn't get a tattoo, but most Mormon women have boob jobs, so there's that. So don't don't mark up your body, but for God's sake, let Melanie get her double D's. Like, it's just, I'm like, now that I'm out, it's hilarious. But I'm like, when you're in, you're like, and you have to be really perfect. So you go in, you talk to your bishop, but he asks you things all alone in an office, all alone at 12 and 13 and 14. Do you masturbate? Not just do you masturbate, like what did you masturbate to? What did you have fantasy? Like very in-depth questioning. Wow. Yeah, it's very creepy. And you're like, ugh. And so you just start lying from a very early age. You start figuring out like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. So nope, I'm perfect in every way. I'm perfect. I don't want to talk about this. So it makes you a liar. It makes you hide. It makes you falsely perfect. It's just a whole fallacy. So you go to the temple and do this thing called baptisms for the dead. And we get baptized. Yeah, this is going to get good. And I'll have to get into the church history too, and it'll make more sense. But this is just me for right now. So when you're young and you do the baptisms for the dead, you go there and you get these names for all these dead people and you just baptize for these dead people, just like a normal baptism, but like 20, 30 times you're getting dunked for dead people. And so that's why Mormons are so into genealogy, because they want the names of every person in their family line. And if they were not baptized or married in the temple, then you get to go do that work for them by proxy. And so I'm like, okay, that I never questioned it. The baptismal font, I don't have a picture of that with me tonight, but I don't think I do. It's 12 oxen, golden oxen with a bull. Like, it's creepy. You'll have to Google it. And then you're a 12-year-old girl, you're getting on 13 and 14, because it's mostly the youth, and you're like in front of the other people and it's see-through and it's white and you can't wear anything else. You're just, it was not comfortable for me. I was an early developer. I'm 5'9". Like, for me, I just sat there like the whole time, like, great, this is so bad. Like, and you're wondering later, like, who was sitting there watching us? Like, is this some weird, creepy? I'm sure it is. I don't even know. I don't know. So that's your first taste of the temple. And you think, oh, it's great because they take you for ice cream after. And you did it with your little group and in your little teenager group. Oh, and John went and I have a crush on him or whatever. You're excited to be in the group. It's all about the group. It's very inclusive. And if you weren't Mormon, you were like, oh, well, when I was young, people would be like, you can't play with my children because you smell like cigarettes, and my kids can't play with kids like you. Like, it's very like that in Utah. Utah's still like that to a lot of degree.
Very judgy.
Oh, like if your kids, like if they knew I not only wasn't a Mormon, but I'm an apostate, I would have very few people that would let their kids around my family, because I'm going to hell. We'll get there. But to them. So not hell, outer darkness. It's better. They always have to one up everything. So they're one uppers. Yeah. So then you grow up and you're pushed marriage from like, I want to say like 12 years old, just this whole, I'm saving myself for marriage. I'm going to go to the temple. I'm going to get married in the temple. We don't even know really what that means because they can't talk about it. It's a secret. And they say, oh no, it's not a secret. It's sacred. And I'm like, okay, cool. But not even your grandma, your parents, no one will tell you this. So you just think, well, okay, you're going to go. So you do all the things to get there, but they really push marriage. And I got married at 17. My parents had to sign, and my husband was 24, almost 25. And I just look back at it and I'm like, I wasn't even graduated high school and everybody was fine with it. And this wasn't that abnormal in Utah. Like, it's really, I don't know that it was really frowned upon, other than people watched to see if I was knocked up. And then after that, they were like, oh, she's not. So that's great. So
Wow.
long story short, he was a convert. We didn't go through the temple because he was a convert for a year. He was Roman Catholic and he's from back east. So He went through with me about a year later. It was like it was almost 2 years, I want to think. And because I was pregnant with my daughter at that time, and it took us a while. So we got married in 94. She was born in 96. So yeah, 2 years. So I was very pregnant with her when I went. And nobody can tell you any of the things, you just know this is going to be the best day of your life. You've been told about this since you were a child. You're going to get married for time and all eternity. They do not believe that till death do you part. They don't believe in any of that. So your temple marriage, if you're getting married the first time there and not like we did, we had to go back because he wasn't worthy, so we had a regular wedding, but most people get married in the temple the first time. And what they don't really explain too much to you is you're not going to get married in your pretty white dress. You're not going to have your family there. If they are not worthy to be there, they cannot come in. And you don't do the whole like vows or any of that stuff. You do different things. You do oaths and vows, but it's not what you hear at a normal marriage at all. So when I did finally go through, I'm sitting there going, okay, you want me to take off my clothes? I put on this poncho with slits up the side, and I'm naked under there. I'm sitting on this like bench thing, and it's super uncomfortable. It's like stone. I'm like, gosh, you think they could put a pillow or something?
Warm it up a little bit. Yeah, something.
Yeah. I'm like, why is it like this? Why is this not wood? Everything else is really nice in there. I found out later that is actually an altar, but I didn't know that then. So you're sitting in there waiting for this blessing over your body, over your loins. They come in through the side of your thing and bless your loins for, to have children and all this stuff. So I'm like, this is so awkward because not only am I naked and having to do this, but also the person that's doing the blessing is a woman. And that was the only part I had a problem with. This is how indoctrinated I was. I was like, fine about being naked, I was weirded out, but fine about all that. But I was like, this woman can't give me a blessing because she's a woman. Yep. She has no authority. And I'm like, and I asked my grandma, I said, wait, how does she have the authority? Oh, it's different here. It's different. And everything is different when they want it to be different, so
very convenient.
I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, this seems weird, so they give you your new underwear and then you put that on and then you put the rest of your temple clothes on, which I'm going to try to share this little screen here. Let's see if I can do it. Okay. Is it already on share?
I think you're able. Right? I know he did it. Yeah, you should be good to go.
Okay, let's see if I can minimize this guy. So you're able to get dressed at that point and all that stuff. But the problem is you go through another about 2-hour session. So you dress like this. Let me minimize this window. Let's see if you can see this. Can you see this?
Right now, I can't see. No, I can't see anything.
No. Okay, let's see. How do I make that work? So you're dressed in these, and if it doesn't, I can explain it enough that it won't make a huge difference. It's coming up on my screen, but not yours, so I'm not sure. Let's see how
I click share screen, and then you click on the screen that you would like to share, and then in the bottom right-hand corner, you could hit screen. It should pop up. If not, that's okay. If not, that's okay.
It's okay. If not, it's not a make or break because I can explain it enough. Let's see if I can create a video. Full screen. Maybe if I go full screen on it. Can you see it now?
Negative.
No. Negative. Okay. We're just gonna go with it because I don't want this to be. There's only a few photos, and it's really not. It's cool, but it's not make or break. You know?
Yeah, no worries.
So
no worries.
you wear these white dresses. They're very simple, and then you wear a robe over the top of that. And it's kind of like a sheer robe. Let me try to make this go back up. Oh, are you there? Yeah, there you are. Okay. And so you wear like a sheer thing over the top of that. It goes sideways. And then after that, you put on a veil, but it's a very thick veil. And that can go over I think I might have found it. I did. Let's see. This will be better because it will just explain it for you. How about this? Can you see that?
Yep, good to go.
Okay. So here's what the men wear. I always like to say they kind of wear baker's hats, kind of. It's kind of funny. And they wear this outfit, same as us. They wear a white shirt, white pants, white slippers. We wear the dress, the veil, slippers, and then these aprons, which is so Masonic. Everything in this is so Masonic. You get the robe in Masons, they get a new underwear, we get a new underwear. There's a compass and square on them. And it's like on the chest area, and we're never supposed to take them off except to go to the gym, to make more Mormons, or shower. And so that's the only 3 times. The women have to veil their faces. When I went, now they've changed it conveniently again because people were offended, as they should be, because we had to veil our faces because we can't hold the priesthood and we're not worthy to even unveil our faces to do this. So we weren't supposed to be able to do that. And the apron is resemblance of fig leaves. And actually in the temple story, which is like a 2-hour thing that you go through, it's a whole big process. It's too much to put it all together, but Satan is actually the one that gives us the fig leaf apron. And in the fake little play, it says Satan came down, because we used to say Pele El when we would be in this like little chanting about, like, they have like a whole play, like, okay, we got to go down, Adam needs help, okay, we'll go down, and then God's there, and then so they leave and go back up, and then they're yelling out like, God help me, like Paleo, and it actually means oh God, but it means oh false God, hear the words of my mouth. Now they just say, oh God, hear the words of my mouth. They quit saying that because enough people got smart and knew what it meant, and they're like, why are we saying this? And then instead of God showing up, it's Lucifer that shows up, and he gives us this apron. He says, hurry, put this on, God will see your nakedness. So I interviewed another guy, and I'm going to be releasing that episode pretty soon, that is a Mormon also. Well, not now, but he was. And he said, I always thought that was weird, because why are we doing what Satan wants? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, we're supposed to be Christian. And I don't have a problem with Mormons if they want to denounce Christianity, if they want to say that they're Masons or whatever else that they are. But if they've got to stop saying they're Christian, it's crap. They're not. And they always say, oh yes, we are. Their handshakes, you go to the veil, and these handshakes are almost the exact same handshakes. These are the signs and tokens that you receive in the temple. And if you don't learn these, then you can't go to heaven. You need to learn these, and you go to the veil and you recreate them, and you get a new name, which also Masons get a new name. So they tell my husband his new name, and then they tell me my new name. He goes through and tells his new name to God. God gets these little signs and tokens, the fake God, you know, you put your hand through the curtain and do these. And then he's passed the angels and sentinels by knowing all these secret handshakes, and he can come in. Well, then I'm not close to God. God calls my husband through, but my husband calls me through. So I therefore tell my husband my name, and he calls me through after I do all this stuff. So these are some of them. And this is not the temple tokens. However, these are the Mason handshakes, and they are almost identical.
You want to try to click on number 10, because what I'm seeing right now is like I see 10. The pictures, but they're very small. Yeah, so like the handshake. So I think if you double click on that, maybe it'll bring it up bigger.
Maybe it'll help.
If not, no worries.
Did that help? Did that show it?
No, right now I still see like the top left says
like tiny.
It says podcast, and then there's
let's see,
11, 12. If not, it's not a big deal. There's 13 pictures, but they're all like small. They're not like
tiny. See, it's my full screen for me. Maybe if I look down on the,
but If not, no worries. I can still see
Okay.
them, and if you look close, you can definitely see them. I see
Okay.
I can kind of see the handshakes look very similar.
Did that blow it up at all?
No,
Nope. Okay, shoot.
it's all right.
Well, this is my first time on my new little computer setup. Usually
All
I
good.
was doing it on my phone, but these are all, they can look these up as well, and they're Masonic handshakes. So you give those and you go through the veil. Your husband calls you, and then you do this whole weird thing. There's a lot more to it. The first time you go, it's for you and him. But the next time you go, and people are encouraged to go multiple times, they are encouraged to go as many times as they can. Oh, I think I see this. Let's see. No, but that's not going to help me. They are encouraged to go as many times as they can to the temple to do it for other people. And so then they start doing this for others, and all dead people, all dead people. So this is, can you see this picture? Is it too small?
It's weird. I don't even see your cursor. All I see is like the podcast folder,
Oh, I see
and
what
then
you're saying.
all your those pictures are small. So I think if you're still on the exact same page, because the screen that you're sharing is the document that says podcast. So you're sharing like it says ID
Oh,
personal, app data,
oh
desktop,
boy.
documents, pictures.
Okay.
It's
So
tricky,
this
and I know
may,
you're working on
I might
a new
have to
computer.
just mess. Yeah. I'll just explain
That's
it
all right.
better, because I feel like it will just take away from what we're talking about. But so the first time, like I said, you go through and you do it for yourself and your husband, because the only two ways you can go to the temple is if you are getting married or you're going on a mission. LDS girls are not encouraged to go on a mission, and they cannot go until they're 21 because they want us to get married. And so the boys go, and they go at 19. And this is in the prime of your life. Like, I've had nephews and things that have given up scholarships and just, yeah, not played baseball, not played football, not finished school out because they've interrupted it. You go for 2 years. And during that time, you are not allowed to talk to you're like a priest. You don't talk to women, you don't date, you don't talk to your family, barely. Like, I think once a week they can call home. And that used to be only twice a year. It used to be on Christmas and on Mother's Day, and that was it. But
And
they
this
changed it.
so I'm sorry. So this is when the men are on their mission. So like today I
Yep.
went to the liquor store and I bought myself a 12 pack of Rolling Rock. And as I was leaving, I
Yes.
seen two elders, I believe they're called,
Yes,
on their
elders.
bicycles. So you're
Yes.
saying, yeah, okay. That makes sense. So real
They
quick,
are they are giving up their life, and not only do they give up their life, but they have to pay for that mission out of their pocket. Yeah.
that's super wild. I lived in Maine for a while, and I worked at a store called Van Heusen, and
Mm-hmm.
these
Yeah, I
Mormons
know
would come
Van
in
Heusen.
to
Yeah.
buy ties.
Uh-huh.
And I would always, treat them as I would treat anybody else.
Right, of
Well,
course.
long story short, one day after work, I'm out home on the deck and I'm having a beer, and they come riding by, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the guy from,
Oh,
oh
from the
sorry,
tie.
that exactly, that's the guy from the that I was selling ties to. Hold on one.
Uh-oh.
My daughter took a little spill.
Up there. Oh, you're good.
But anyhow, so yeah, so they ended up coming over, and I'm smoking my joint and I'm drinking my beer, and I actually had fun. And it wasn't even like a, give it just a second.
You're good.
She landed on her little butt.
Uh-oh.
But anyhow, so yeah, they would come over, and I would have great conversations with them, and I was always like, you know, talking about like, so you don't believe in aliens and blah 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 blah. Obviously, my
Right.
thoughts on
Yeah.
all that have changed, but what I was getting to, when we ended up moving from that place to another place, and I just kind of told them this in passing. They actually helped us move all of our shit
Oh, yeah,
from one
for
house
sure.
to the other, and I thought that was, I mean, it was
There's
kind of
some of
cool.
The sad thing is they're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And most of their actual members, just like in many situations, I feel like when you get into a cult type situation, this they don't understand. They don't know any of the stuff that I'm telling you, because as a member, I didn't know some of the stuff I'm telling you. And they encourage community. This is why it's so hard to leave. They encourage community. They encourage you to be charitable. They encourage you, but you know who else also does that? Masons.
Yep.
They encourage them to do the same thing. And so I'm like, well, it's like you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but also they need to stop saying that. I would back off and never speak about this again if they would say they're not Christian, because they're not. And they say, well, we believe in Jesus too. We believe in the same Jesus. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't even believe in the Trinity. So no, you don't.
The Trinity
and then,
being the Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
Yes, they believe they are three separate beings. And I will definitely get into that. But I'm like, even on the apps when you move and now you put in, my husband showed me this. He's like, I was on my phone and I was looking for that church you were talking about, that born again Christian church. And he's like, now instead of the cross, it used to show the Christian churches with the cross on the little Google Maps. And it used to show the LDS churches with the angel Moroni trumpet, because that's just how they've always done it. Now they show them all as crosses. Well, the church doesn't even believe in a cross. You can't even wear a cross there. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. And I'm sure plenty of people that, like, maybe foreigners or different people that don't know what that means, they go to that church and then think, wow, this is the best thing ever. Yep. And then bam, you're Mormon,
They're tricked into it. They're like,
yeah,
hey, man,
it's bad.
We've seen that cross before. And usually when you see a cross, you can identify with that cross, right?
Yeah.
And so they're almost putting up these false symbols just to get more people in.
So bad.
Wow.
And they also are counting people that are not off of the records. So like my son was blessed in the church, but only blessed. That means like as a baby, he got his name and got a blessing in front of the church. That was it. They still count him as a member, even though he's never been baptized into it and he doesn't go to that church. They still are doing that because they want to keep their numbers up.
Yep. Keep the numbers up. Yep.
So many people are leaving in droves because they're like, no, the computer era started a mass exodus for them. People started finding things out, like me, like the things I'm telling you, or will be telling you, and people don't know. And everybody's just like, no, that's not possible. And I'm like, bet, I will show you on my phone right now. Some of it was hard to find, but some of it wasn't. And I'm like, no, I can show you 10 facts right now that it's total crap, and they're doing little sneaky stuff now with the missionaries, because they came to my house and I straight up, I answered the door. I'm like, I'm an apostate. I'm going to hell according to you. So you probably should go, and they were like, oh, but can we use no, they didn't say it that way. They said, do you know any members close by that might let us use the bathroom? And it's freezing outside. I am not I have a Christian heart. I am not turning away anyone that needs to use my bathroom. Like, they're young women, like they might have some issue, so
yeah,
I'm like, okay, yeah, let them use the bathroom. I told them, no, that's fine. And so then what was funny is I told my mom about it and I said, I kind of felt bad because she used the bathroom. And she goes, that's really funny because they pulled that on me last week. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, either people really are having to go to the bathroom a lot, or there's something going on,
So and you think so even though after you told them you're an apostate and according to their beliefs you're going to hell, then they proceeded to say, do you know, is there any other Mormons around? We need to use the restroom.
Yes.
So you let them in to use the restroom.
Yep. And they still tried to talk to me.
Okay.
And I was like, no, we can't have this. And then she says to me, but can I just give you a hug? And I'm like thinking about like how demons are transferred. And I'm like, oh, like, I mean, I guess not that she's demonic. I'm not saying that.
But still the intention.
Yeah.
In which
the intention.
It's like, little girl, I've been there and done that.
You never know. You never know who's catching a ride on somebody's back. Like, I'm not trying to get, anything anyway. And so it's hard because you want to have a Christian heart and you want to still be a good person, and you still want to be like saying like these members are good people for the most part. Like I think that missionary, she was schooled in some, like, I don't know, some different ways of getting in the door, but because they always tell them if you can get in the door, da, da, da. And I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen. They were really talking up my little girl. And I was like, that's enough, like you got to go. Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but the most of the members are wonderful people. Most people have no idea what all this stuff is going on. Sometimes they do now because they hear it from other people, but they actually had a full campaign going on when the internet started getting really big. It would say, don't look up anything. If you need to know anything, go to lds.org and don't doubt your faith, doubt your doubts. That was a literal campaign.
Wow.
When I was in the church. And I'm like, okay, this has gone too far. And then they came out when the whole immunizations came out and recommended every single person in the church get it. And I'm like, you have no business. You have zero business interjecting yourself into a medical thing. That is so bad because you have no idea if these people have other conditions or problems or whatever. And that just hit me that hit me in some other kind of way. I was like, this is bad, and I saw a lot of people die. I've seen a lot of people die and they can't prove it. And I know that, but you know what? They never will. But if you want me to trust the people that turned around and gave us Tuskegee, you're crazy. You're crazy. Yep. I'm not doing that, and it bothers me because of the things, Billy Boy's wife said about how they were trying to push it on the African American people. And then also how the church has been linked with tons of like problems with, racism and all this. And we can get to that. I'm like, what is your intention here? Because this hits people. As a nurse, I know this and I've watched it hit certain people different, and it hits certain races different. And I've had multiple people of my friends, especially Latin Americans, that have died from this at a young age. And that's terrifying. And it makes you wonder just what exactly are they doing? Or is this like an extermination? Because it's terrifying to me,
Absolutely.
My mom's married to a half Native American, half Spanish guy. My sister's married to a Hawaiian, and he's half Hawaiian and half Asian. My brother married a black gal from Chicago, and she ain't even playing. Like, she was just straight up, like, deep from the hood. And so my family's really intermixed. And so I have to be in the game. It's not just a numbers game for me. This is my family, it's different. I'm sure you've heard things too. It's scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, even when the whole COVID shit started, I remember my dad, I lived up in Northern California in a mobile home park. And I remember, and this is before my dad. Now he's fully like, most of my family, I mean, I'm getting shit sent to me all day long. We are all on the same page. Like,
right. Now you're on it.
Great.
Yeah.
Like, it's great because I can't imagine having the mindset that I have and being surrounded with people who think I'm absolutely fucking crazy.
That's how we are.
But I remember he was telling me, he was like, is Amber Lynn, my oldest daughter, like, don't have her out playing around, because a lot of the community in the mobile home was Hispanics. And he goes, I heard that it's hitting them harder. Like, it's almost more attracted to them.
Yeah.
And at first I'm like, you're fucking out of your mind, dude. Like, that makes no sense, but it makes absolute sense. They're trying to exterminate.
Yeah, you can't tell me with the genetic. Okay, so right before all this happened, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, so whatever.
Right.
So right before all of this happened, what got pushed hardcore? What was being sold hardcore for every single Christmas? It was the DNA tests. And guess who ran one of the biggest DNA tests?
The Mormons.
It's the Mormons. And I'm like,
23andMe.
Yes. And I'm like, do you know how scary that is to me? Because they have literal prophets that have said, this is a quote from an older prophet in the 70s. He said, oh, we've been teaching our native brothers and sisters, and since we've been having more of them in our church, they've become more white and delightsome. And I'm like, that was my joke on the tavern about the white and delightsome.
I didn't get that. I didn't. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And some people already knew, I think, because they were laughing. But I'm like, if you are a person of color and you're still in the LDS church, you have lost your damn mind. Because, and I don't mean that with disrespect, I'm just saying that I cannot believe with the past history of them having huge racism, and they'll say, oh, well, the prophet's just a man like any other, but he's the prophet. Which one is it? Is he the prophet anointed by God? Because if he is, he's not supposed to be wrong, right? Because that's what the Bible says, right?
Yep.
But then he's wrong all the time, and then he's just a man, and you can't blame him for being just a man. I'm like, yes, I can, because it says so in the Bible. So which one are you going with? Because your twistianity is not happening with me. I'm like, I'm done with that. Like, no. And so when I did get out, like, things went real bad for me. Like, I mean, my grandma started listening my grandma was the one that raised me since the courts took me away when I was 12. So she took me, and after she heard that I was listening to anti-Mormon propaganda, she filed for CPS on me against my daughter and said that I was beating my daughter because her boyfriend was on a mission, like we talked about the mission thing.
Yep.
And she didn't want me messing with her brain. And so they lied, because you can't file like, oh, well, she's listening to anti-Mormon stuff.
That's not enough. Yeah, they're not going to do nothing for that.
So they said I was beating her in the head and neck daily. And luckily, I was pregnant at the time. I had to go to court. I almost lost my baby twice. I had tons of problems because of the stress. It's just not good for you when you're pregnant. And so, long story short, my daughter was 17, and they looked at her straight in her face and they said, your 18th birthday is coming up, and if we find out that you lie on the stand, we will perjure you, because this looks like a piece of crap. And she goes, tell me in your words what that paper said that they filed. And she goes, I don't know, my grandma wrote it.
Perfect.
And I was like, oh, well, that case was dropped immediately. Like, but then she couldn't get me that way, so she sued me. She kept every receipt that she ever had for my kids. Like, every time she bought them dinner, every time she bought them school clothes, and whatever, she took me to court and sued me, and she won. And my whole family thinks I'm a thief and that I'm going to go to outer darkness as well. So she died. So I couldn't even fix it, because, like, how do you prove that with a dead lady? You don't. You just look like the asshole forever. So I'm the asshole forever. Yeah.
So she sued you. Because of your beliefs, or I guess your anti-beliefs in Mormonism. She sued you for all of the stuff that she paid for your children. She felt like you stole that money because your beliefs were different. That's absolutely,
apparently.
That's got to only happen in a court in Utah.
Oh, it was so bad. And then on top of it, since me and my ex-husband, we were going through our divorce at the same time, he was going to take the house, and I'd already signed over the house, and he was going to pay me money, but she knew I didn't have anything, and you can't take away someone's child support. Like, that's not a thing. So she was like, well, I'm going to go after him. And she tried to sue him. And all she did was make me and him tight, because I was like, no, that is so messed up. I am so sorry that's happening to you. And I was like, I will do anything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. And to this day, me and him are pretty good friends because of her.
That's awesome.
And
that's awesome.
I'm
you were able to keep that relationship, decent, just because you guys being married didn't work out,
and it was unfair. It was unfair for him. That's so crap. Like, I could have been that girl that was like, I don't care what happens to you, that's not my problem. No, I care. I didn't want his life ruined, and especially I felt just horrible guilt, because that's like my family. And I couldn't believe it, because we were so close to her. Like, we did everything for her. Like, we were at her beck and call, because my grandpa died really young. really suddenly. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I have to help my grandma with everything because my grandpa was dead, you know, and I told him on his dying bed, like, I will take care of her, you know. So then you feel like total trash because I mean, shortly after all that garbage happened, she passed away. But I did go. I swore I'd never talk to her or see her again. And I didn't talk to her when my brother passed away. I just didn't have the capability in my brain to like deal with that, you know, at that time. And she tried, and I know she felt maybe bad in her own way. But then at the very end, and my cousin called and he's like, dude, she's seriously going to die. And I had helped all my other family members, gone to their home. They stayed in there with hospice. I was their nurse. Like, I'm talking, I put a catheter in my grandpa. I bathed my grandpa, like all that. My great grandma took care of her. Like, so I know she knew she made a mistake because I would have took care of her. Despite the differences, it wouldn't have mattered. That's family, you know.
That's a shame that it had to come down to that.
And then so she wasn't passing away, and some people will wait for things. So I did go to the hospital, and she did pass away shortly after that. And I made sure she was taken care of, like that the nurses were doing. I'm a nurse, so of course I got all up in there.
You got your community and
yeah.
Wow.
And so that's what happened to me on that part. It was a wild ride. And that's not even my husband's parents. My husband's parents, they still are. We've been together like going on 11 years, and like literally they still don't like me. We ran away to get married because I was like, I'm not gonna have your mom look at me weird the whole wedding. I don't want to. We've both been married before. Like, what, you know, we were older, and she was so pissed when we got pregnant that I was just like, dude, there's a baby in there. I don't know what to tell you. I was as shocked as anybody. My daughter's 9 and my son's almost 16. You know, they told me all that was wrapped up and I was good. Nope. No, I wasn't. No, there was like one left in there.
Well, you were blessed with another beautiful soul.
Yep. And I just told her, hey, you don't agree with abortion. Neither do I. What do you want me to do? You know, I'm not unhappy. Like, I love him. Like, what do you want? But to this day, they still are really not happy. But he was already out of the church and everything since he was 16. So I think it's kind of funny because I'm not the reason, you know. He actually helped me more than, I mean, I was still like lukewarm in the Mormonism. So it was definitely weird. It's still weird. It does feel like you got kicked out of, like, it feels like the Jehovah's Witnesses, like how that's explained. It feels very much that way. People will say Mormons don't do that. Yes, they do. They just do it a lot nicer. They just do it with a big smile. They just are Molly Mormon, little sweet and innocent, you know. Oh,
very deceiving.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm aggressive, so nobody likes that anyway. But I'm like, well, whatever.
They can't handle the truth.
So actually, to rewind it back to the actual religion, not only do I feel like they're Freemasons, I know for a fact because the founder of the church was Joseph Smith, and his mother wrote an autobiography, and it is published, and you can find this on Google, talking about how she worshiped in the cult of Abraxas, which Abraxas is the chicken snake god. We call it that because that's how basically he looks. He has 2 snake tails kind of on the bottom and a chicken head on the top. But what I found really interesting is he's a necromancer. And a lot of what happens with Joseph Smith and all those baptisms for the dead, the people are dead, all this like complete like engrossing on the dead. And I'm like, this is really interesting. So I never knew that while I was in ever. And she literally said that her name was Lucy Mack Smith. And if you Google Abraxas and her quote, it will come right up. And so they will say, no, that wasn't it. They were known treasure hunters. They were known for divination. They were known for with their treasure stuff. They would use divining rods, and they would go out And the other boy, Joseph Smith, was sick when he was young. So he stayed inside a lot of the times because he had a huge bone infection that he almost lost his leg. And so he would stay inside and be a scryer. So while he was inside, he would send out papers like to them. And I'm assuming it's automatic writing, but he would send them out the stuff and, oh, go here, go west, this many steps, whatever. And actually they kind of sucked at treasure hunting. I don't think they ever found anything very good, but that was what they were known for. And then he had in his treasure bag, which the church swears is not his. They try and say it's his brother's. And one thing that was specifically identified by his wife, Emma Smith, was a Jupiter talisman that he wore on until he died. And why would he have a talisman if he was a Christian, right?
Yep.
Like that doesn't even make any sense. He had a bag I showed it on Josh's show and it wasn't him. It was Jason was like, yo, we didn't pray. It was so funny. I was like, yeah, we probably should. He's like, that looks scary. And I'm like, no, it does. In fact, I sent it to myself on the email and it got flagged as a dangerous email. I was like, what? Okay.
Of course.
I sent it to myself. Yeah. And so it was kind of funny because it does look creepy. And he goes, it looks like a sigil. And I'm like, oh, it is. And then it tells you about what it is. It's a protection sigil. It's one calling angels down. He specifically had like different angels he had on that paperwork from the Enochian alphabet. And that's where my personal feeling is. And I don't know if you know about the John Dee story and the Enochian alphabet. I do not. Okay. So John Dee gets skipped over a lot, but he saw angels and they gave him this alphabet and he wrote it down. Sound familiar? Like this is the same as Scientology, the same as Mormonism. And even Muhammad saw, and all of them started their own religion. I'm going to do an episode on this because it's too coincidental. So John Dee writes down this Enochian alphabet. It's supposed to be the language of angels. And so he used some of those sigils and he put them into that Enochian alphabet was in the Magus. You know what the Magus is? The book for it's like a spell book kind of. It's like a very occult.
I don't know a lot about it, but I have heard about it.
So they say he had no access to that. He wouldn't be doing that. Yes, he would. His family was Scottish and Irish, and his mom is in this cult of Abraxas. Are you crazy? And he was sick for like 4 years and had to like stay in bed and just lay there. I mean, you're going to read everything in the house. Like, come on, you're going to be bored. And I believe he was super smart. But I also know, so he goes and prays. The whole story is he goes and prays at like 14, I think it was 14 in the Grove because all these churches were surrounding him and he didn't know which church to join. So he read the part of the Bible that says, if ye lack wisdom, go ask of God. So he did. And he says angels appeared to him, one which he says was God the Father, actual God the Father, which no one's seen God the Father. So right out the gate, we've got problems, you know. So he says, okay, don't join any of them. I'll give you the full knowledge. And he's like, okay. So over the years, people always take that story like, oh, and then he got the golden plates and boop, no, that's not what happened. For years, he was trying to get the plates because this angel, Moroni, not only did he see God the Father and the other angel, he saw Angel Moroni, who had the plates in the hill. And it's like, okay, how many is that now? And he also saw multiple dead people. So I think in total, it's recorded that he saw 24 either dead people or angels. You tell me that sounds like some God stuff, or does that sound like something else? You know?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So then we start learning about that. The like Moroni said, you have to bring your brother next year and come back because you're not good enough to get these golden plates right now. And so he was going to do that, but his brother dies. Okay. So sudden death. Yeah. He has the sudden death, whatever. I believe it was the Faustian bargain. I believe his dad, who was a 33-degree Mason, and so was he, they both had to make their own sacrifice. And I'll say why. Because he dies, and then like he gets the plate shortly after, and they make it always sound like it's this beautiful thing, like, oh, and then the angel came, and then, oh, ta-da, like here's the plates. No, that's not what happened. It happened on the fall equinox in the middle of the night at around 3 a.m. He dressed all in black. This was in a biography from his mother. She wrote it, not me. This is not my history, Mormons. This is your history. So he went out and got the plates, and then he took them all dressed in black on the fall equinox in the middle of the night from some apparition. Right. I don't think any of that sounds great. I mean, it sounds terrifying. And no one ever really saw the plates. And if they were made of 100% gold, like he says they were, how do you even carry the things? Right. So shortly after this, about 9 months to the day, real close to, they have a baby, him and his wife, because he had just got married when he got those plates. And that baby is not only born severely deformed, it dies shortly after birth. And what do they name it? The dead brother's name. You tell me what's going on there.
No. With the
That's
necromancy, yeah, no.
Yep, their Faustian bargain. He had 11 children, and I think 5 of the 11 died in infancy. So like weird stuff going on there. And his masonry is what got him actually murdered. He was tarred and feathered. He was in a jail. Like we'll get there, but it was mostly because he kept messing around with everybody's wives, and also he stole their temple ceremony. So he gets these plates. He says he translated them. All of us believed in the Mormon church he used the Urim and Thummim. Okay, it's like these weird glasses that are super thick, and they look kind of like crystals, but that's not true. The truth is he used a hat. He would put a cedar stone in the hat, cover his head, because this is documented from his scribe, and it would just come to him. That's automatic writing. Absolutely, for sure.
Yep.
Like that's crazy to me. There's no way. What they said, he would give them symbols so that he could translate them later. And then he would translate them. So this guy that's helping him, Martin Harris is the first one. His wife is like, nah, bro. And if you ever saw the South Park about Mormons, this is the funniest thing ever. They've like taken it off of YouTube. You have to pay for this episode now, because probably the Mormons didn't think it was funny, but it's funny. And it's accurate. What's even funnier is it actually happened. And his wife said, okay, if you're spending all our money and you're spending all your time with him, I want to see this. And he wouldn't let her see the plates because nobody could set their eyes upon him or they would die. That's what he said. So, okay, she says, all right, I want to see like the writing then. Show me a chapter of the book, So the guy begs and begs, and finally he brings this chapter home, and she burns it. And in the South Park, the whole time they're like, dum, da, dum, dum, dum. Like this whole time, you think it's like part of the song that they're singing, but actually on hers, they go smart, so smart, smart, smart. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. So then she burns them, and he goes back and tells him, oh my gosh, they're gone. What should I do? And he goes, it's okay. God knew this was going to happen. And so we won't translate those anymore because she did that, because the angels are telling me not to. Of course, right? It's like too good. It's too good.
It really is. And I think that, everything that you're saying is just like, oh my goodness. Like, instead of like every time I see an elder, like instead of being like, oh, like fuck off, it's more like, dude, I feel super bad for you, because you literally don't have a clue as to what is going on, what you're worshiping.
No.
This right here. So I found some photos here. Yes. This one right here is kind of good. It's from I don't know if you know who this guy is, Dallin Oaks, the BYU president, Utah. Says research is not the answer, quote unquote. So he is literally saying, like, don't research it.
Nope.
Again, like you said, go to the LDS website and all your answers are going to be fucking right there for you. And then this guy right here, you had mentioned earlier about the the gowns or whatever you wear. Well,
Yes.
this is all being made in China in a sweatshop.
Oh,
And it
wow.
says right down here, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they are in the middle of
Well,
making
the gowns, and
yep.
they have the only patents. It's a racket for sure. They could be brought up on racketeering charges because they require you to have them. And then you can only buy them through them. And you can only buy them if you have the special passcode, like your little temple card. And so, I mean, yeah, they're making all the money off of it.
It's a monopoly is yep,
Absolutely.
exactly what
Yep.
it is. And
Yep.
this one here, you said what was the joke? The white
Oh, the white and delightsome. Yes,
yeah, the
the
white
white
and
and
delight. And
delightsome.
we got it says, so there I was, the only white guy in Jerusalem.
Yep, exactly. And I'm like, I don't understand how people aren't, how they're not more in tune with that. But like, they also come, you have to understand, they come preaching this message, and it really appeals to certain people, like people that have had people die, and like especially children, because they preach families are forever, and they preach that marriage that I had that was creepy as crap over an altar looking into forever mirrors, which are totally occult, and making oaths. They say that marriage will stand time and all eternity. No, the Bible says no. The Bible says there's none of that in heaven, right? So how come everything, doesn't go together? Well, then they'll turn it around and they'll say that's because we only believe in the Bible as it's translated correctly. And they'll turn it around and say the Bible wasn't translated correctly.
There's always a loophole. It always goes back to like, oh, well, this
Yep.
isn't really what it seems. And yeah, I mean, I know it says that in the Bible, but they didn't translate it correctly.
Yeah.
And then, oh, this story, it's different. It's just
They got it
different.
wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, they got it wrong. They'll say, actually, one of the older church presidents, they actually said, hey, what about Masons? You guys practice almost Masonry. And he said, we have the true Masonry in the Mormon church, because Joseph Smith became a Mason in the midst of all this stuff that I was telling you. And he becomes a 33-degree Mason in one day. One day. So his dad had already been a 33-degree Mason. And then he goes through and gets his temple rights, which are almost identical to our temple rights. And 1 month later, his ceremony is released to his members. Well, that's what got him killed, because they were like, hey, he started bringing everyone into the Masons that was part of the Mormons. And they were getting worried because they were like, hey, he's got the numbers, man. He's got more people with him than we have in like 3 states. So, and he's sleeping with everybody's wives. And so they were like, no. They used to say he wasn't a polygamist, but he was, and they knew it. And when one of the guys caught him, his second scribe caught him literally rolling in the hay with his little teenage housekeeper girl, they caught him and they turned it around and he excommunicated them. And so I'm like, there's no way. Yeah. Like, he always came out, and they literally said he would always come out smelling like a rose, that if you put him in a room with the people that were angry at him, it wouldn't stick. He just had a silver tongue. And I mean, obviously he had like 33 wives, right? So I'm like, yeah. And
if you can't see
yeah.
that, I don't know. I don't know what kind of help you need. But it's
No,
right. It's
yeah, it's
literally right
so
there.
wild. Well, and then they're doing chanting like that stuff I was telling you in the temple. If anybody ever asks you, can we put your name on the temple book? Okay. Say no, because they do this weird freaking circle and they put their hands up and they're like chanting with their faces covered and doing this number. And I remember sitting there and I looked at my grandma and I was like, what is going on? And she was like, don't worry.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
Taylor
don't
Swift
worry.
concert.
Oh, for real. It was worse. I mean, the music was even worse. And that's like shocking.
I think it's absolutely great that you were able to overcome this. And
yes,
I mean, because Yeah,
Like
that's intense.
Jess kept saying in the first tavern, he's like, how come if this is happening and all this weird stuff, and there's a lot of people that leave the church, how come you're the only one saying any of this? And I'm like, because they're still scared, because they literally tell you if you do the oaths and you break them, then you will go to outer darkness with murderers. And people, I think, on some level are either too afraid of their own beliefs or don't have enough belief in God or whatever to get it, or they're too afraid of looking like an outsider. And I'm not sure which it is.
But when you've been indoctrinated that fucking long,
Oh, it
like when you've been like, and so when you were trying to pull up photos, I was trying to like find some of the photos
find
that
them.
you may or
Uh-huh.
have had, and there's a Reddit page that I'm going to send to you. And so to go back to the question that Jess had, like, why are you the only one?
Right. Why is no
You're
one
not
talking?
you're not the only one.
Mm-mm.
There's an entire Reddit page which I just lost, but I will find it and I will send it to you. And that's where I got all that. I mean, it's pages and pages and
It's
pages of
huge.
people that were Mormons that are now what I will apostates.
Apostate. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go, right there. I mean, there's many
Yep.
people, but also in the same time, like what you're doing is very unique to most people because I remember uh, when I was listening to the show that you did on Catalyst Jones, the White Rabbit, and you said that you still live in Utah. I'm like, holy smokes, dude! Like you're brave, and that's what it
Yeah.
takes. Like
I'm here.
like it'd be
Yeah, they could
different,
come for me, man.
and
Like
there's
there's
no
some
doubt.
crazy stuff. Yeah. And the thing is too is it's so looked down on. Like I have to keep this separate. Like this isn't on my Facebook. Like as much as I want fans, this isn't something I share with my whole family. If they find out, they find out. But like some people know, some people don't. And I just feel like, you know what? I am doing something that's making it okay for other people to do it too.
Yep.
Because you can to say this was traumatizing for me. This was scary for me. This was not a good feeling. This didn't feel like God when I was sitting in there doing all this weird stuff. And when I got out and I found God, like I only found God, like really found God. Like, I mean, I knew God and I loved God even before that church. Like I always knew there was a God because of my childhood. The stuff that happened to me, like that was the tip of the iceberg, so small, but like I knew there was somebody there. And that didn't take convincing. So I knew when I was out, I would know he was still there. But it really gained my testimony. But I will say this, I don't know that I ever believed in demons or the dark side as much as I do now because it's a constant battle. I get demonic attacks. When I first got out, it was horrible. It was horrible. And we had to go through my family line, generational curses go on and on. My DNA says Mormon settler history. Like it's in my DNA. Like you don't just break that. That took time. That took time and effort and prayers and just so much. And I made an actual response video on YouTube because I felt so bad. People started messaging me like crazy, like, what did you do to help? And so I made a video on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And just to try and help about spiritual warfare.
It's going on. I mean, it's going on right now. That's exactly, in my opinion, what's happening. It is a silent war. It is a
Yeah.
spiritual war against good and evil.
Oh, that's 100%.
And now's the time, man. Now's the time. I was not a believer. I got my first Bible, I think, 3 years ago. Well, I got a Bible when I was in the Navy, a little small, itty bitty little.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really read it. But it was about 3-4 years ago I got my first Bible that my aunt had given me. It was one of hers, and I actually started kind of reading it. I have not read it front to back.
Mm-hmm.
But I do pick it up on occasion and kind of go through it. I'm also into like the lost books of the Bible, the book of Jasher, the book
Right.
of Enoch,
Yeah.
and all that fun jazz. But the point
Well,
being,
they found archaeological support for a lot of those books, by the way.
Oh yeah,
But
there's
they
no
don't
doubt.
talk about that.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's why most, even most churches, even most like Christian churches, they don't talk about that. Flat Earth. Flat
All
Earth.
of it.
I've that's a whole nother thing. And I am a believer. I can't say it's not flat like a freaking pancake. I don't think it's flat like a
Right.
pancake. No, but is there a firmament? You bet your sweet ass
There's a firmament.
there's a
Yes.
there's a firmament. I mean, when you look up and you see Elon Musk with his little SpaceX shit. Every plane goes like this. It doesn't go up.
Well,
I've
what do
never
rainbows do? Look at
exactly.
rainbows.
They curve,
Yeah.
and there's actually a
Yeah.
really cool. I think it was from. Have you seen uh the Level series with Sean Hibbler?
No, but I know who he is.
Okay,
I'll
so
watch it.
they're amazing. They're amazing. But he also has a picture of like really high up in the sky of an actual rainbow, and it's a full circle.
The
But
circle. I've
the
seen
full
the
circle. But
circle.
when
It's
you're
awesome.
down here in your lower elevation, it curves. You know what I mean?
Right.
If
Right.
it was
Yep.
if there wasn't a firmament there, in my opinion, it would just go
Right.
straight up. It would look like a rainbow
Yeah.
bar going straight up and down, and
Right.
that's not the case.
Nope. Well, and there's so many things that we don't understand, and people are so funny. Like I'm undecided, but I know there's a firmament, and then I think it's like a snow globe, like in my brain. Like
Yeah.
that's the best way I can think of. But there's an underneath,
Yep.
too, because I believe in Sheol. But I think I lean more towards that. And I did a flat Earth. My last episode was with Josh on flat Earth. And man, did that stir the pot on YouTube. And here's my thing. People are like, and there is no proof that the earth is flat. And I'm like, there is no proof that the earth is round either. And they're like, yes, what about this? And what about that? I'm like, you mean the Stanley Kubrick filmed stuff or what? Because you believe NASA? Why? I don't believe any government agency and I don't believe anything that they tell me. Sorry. I'm one step away from an anarchist, and there's nothing other than I'm a patriotic anarchist, if that sounds like ridiculous, but I believe in our country the way it used to be, but I hate what it's become.
Yep.
But do I want communism? No. But like, I don't know what to do about the mess we're in. So I don't know what else to say other than anarchy. But like, I mean, I think it's almost better to say we could take care of ourselves. And I don't mean anarchy as in everybody goes buck wild. I mean, like you could have things contracted out privately with our own taxes, and people don't like get that in their head. And that guy I told you about, the Last American Vagabond, he's an anarchist and speaks very much about that. And I'm like, and Charlie Robinson does too. A lot of them do. And I'm like, this makes more sense to me, because if you had somebody that you knew, like, hey, don't go with that company, they do crap work, we would have some good roads. We would have some good stuff. We could make something that might last, but no, here we are. Plus we don't have any money because we send it all to Ukraine. So we can't even help our own people here. Like the whole Lahaina thing. And that's a whole nother story, but that was planned.
Yep.
I know people like, I won't say how, because I don't know if he wants me to, but like very close people to me. And he was a Green Beret and he retired, and he told me flat out, yes, it was. Yeah, I did stuff like that. I detonated stuff like that. That was planned attack.
Yep.
From a Green Beret, airborne,
Yep. I don't doubt that for 2 seconds. And it's that whole thing is just absolutely disgusting. I actually lived up in Northern California during the 2017 fires. I was there for that entire
when half
thing.
of the trees didn't even burn.
Yep, the trees didn't burn. There's a video. I've seen another version of it on Instagram, and one of the photos is there's a Jack in the Box, a McDonald's, and a Arco. They talk about like that's the exit that I took to get to my grandpa's house.
Wow.
I know, and I actually went there in April. We got picked up from the airport, which is about 10 minutes north of that, and I wanted to go grab some beer and get my kid a soda, and we went to that newly rebuilt Arco. Like we lived through it. My fiance actually at that time was, she has diabetes and she was having some issues. So she was actually in the hospital And I remember I was on the phone with her, and she had to take a break from talking to me. She was telling the nurse she smells like fire. And
Oh
the nurse
boy.
is like, "Oh, there's nothing that
It's
we
all
know of."
fire,
Couple
everything.
couple of hours later, yep, she's being evacuated. She was one of the last people to be
Wow.
evacuated because she was not in
The
ICU.
critical,
She
yeah,
was
the
not in the
critical.
critical unit. And so, yeah, they evacuated. We were there for that entire thing. I had no power for 2 weeks. I remember
Wow.
driving. The craziest thing, I remember driving with her brothers and my daughter to go visit her in Vallejo, where they had moved her, and we're driving on the 101 freeway south. And uh, I want to say it's what, like 6 lanes. I think it's 3 lanes going north, 3 lanes going south, and that was a big thing too. Like the fire jumped all that way. Well, I remember driving, and these redwoods and these ponderosa pines, some of them were burning from the inside out. I
Yeah,
watched it
that's not normal.
with my own 2 eyes. It was not
That's
burning from
weird.
the outside, but you can see embers coming from like a little hole
But
popping
people
out.
will tell you you're crazy and
Yeah,
that couldn't happen. Thank God
I
your wife was okay.
oh yeah, no, she was
Oh
good,
my
but
gosh.
a lot of the people that I work with lost all their homes. I had a
Oh
awesome
my
dude I worked
gosh.
with, and him and his um girlfriend, fiance at the time, they're now married and have kids. I remember we talked every day, talking about all the improvements that he's done on his new place and blah 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 blah
Oh
blah, and everything
no.
burned to the ground. Um,
Oh,
and at the time, I worked for a big winery called the Francis Ford Coppola Winery. He was the director of The Godfather, um,
yeah. I know
tons
who
of
that
other
is.
movies. I can't believe I'm
Yeah.
spacing on this, but
Yeah.
I do have
No,
to
I know who
say
that is.
he did a lot. He has 2 suites in the winery. So when we have like special guests come visit, they would stay in these suites. He actually housed a lot of the people, a couple families that
Oh,
lost
wow.
everything. He housed them at the winery, and he also donated a butt ton of money to all the people that
Wow.
lost their funds. I'm not going to speak ill on him, but now that
Right.
I am all about, finding out the truth, and being that I'm not going to say he's
He's up
an elite, but he's
upper
up there.
upper echelon.
And
Yep.
I'll tell you something really crazy. So I have a picture on my phone, and I'm gonna end up blasting it. I'm gonna make sure I can't get in trouble for this, but there was an internal letter that he had wrote to the like management staff, and then we
Oh,
read it
uh-huh.
to the rest of the crew, and it pretty much went over. He was pretty much saying, kind of odd. He was saying that he was not voting for Trump in the 2020
Mm.
election, and he was voting for someone else, and this is why. But he also, right after that, he ended up saying, he ended up cutting everybody's 401k. So he was matching our
Oh,
401k. He
wow.
stopped doing that.
Mm.
Anyone that was salary, he docked their he took 3% out of their salary they were making, and then gave everyone that was salary a furlough day a month. And what happened shortly after that? This is in 2019. This is before the fucking
He
pandemic
knew.
started.
He
He
knew.
knew. And then boom,
He knew.
everything shut down. He ended up selling the
Mm-hmm.
winery to a company called Delgado, the Delgado family. It's like, dude, I read that. This is before COVID was even a fucking thing.
You
You
knew. Yeah,
knew that you were
you
going to
knew.
take a hit financially
Wow.
as far as your business goes. So I'm like,
So
fuck.
he just cut and ran. Yeah, he
Cut and
didn't
ran. He
care.
still owns a couple other wineries,
So
but he
here's
sold
my
the big one.
question on the big fires, and I don't know if you know this. I don't know this. Who owns all that land now? Who did the land grab? That's what
What
that's the dots we need to connect.
So I heard, I think I was talking to, fuck, I remember because we were doing this episode. I wanted White Rabbit to be on. There was some things that popped up, so he was unable to be there that day. But I still had all this information super fresh. And I think it was
Mm.
Troubles Garcia from Paranoid Radio.
Uh-huh.
I want to say that it had something to do with a lot of that land that got burned. They were trying to put that high speed rail in.
Oh.
So now that all
Hmm.
these like houses are now crumbled, right? Then you can I think the
Then
government had,
it's flattened. Yeah.
and
So now
they
they
blamed everything on PG&E. It was all PG&E's fault because they weren't checking the transformers. Blah 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 blah. That shit was wild. And
hmm.
then that even gets into the Paradise fires. The Paradise fires,
Oh,
that was
there's so
nuts.
many fires. There's so many fires in the last 5 years. I cannot believe that this is what blows me away. How do you wake up in the morning and you're not like, ding, like what part of your mind when all of the people got, sick anyway after they took their 47th shot and everything else that happened, what part of you just wakes up and turns on CNN again? What part of you does not have that inner fire? Like I was a normie, bro. 2018, I was the most normal girl. All I cared about was going to work with my kids, and I didn't care. My life was good, whatever. I mean, I wasn't even as good of a Christian as I am now. Like I wasn't dialed up, and then the whole thing happened in 2020. And not only that, but at the same time that 2020 crap happened, I lost my daughter. My daughter estranged from me at the same time in 2019 to 2020. She got married, and there's an episode on it with Davey Wavy. It's worth a listen, even though it's audio only.
I heard that one.
Yep. And it broke me. And I will tell you, there will be nothing that brings you closer to God. And I mean, I've had some doozies. Like my brother died of an accidental overdose. My niece got took away. Like her mom committed suicide a year later. Like there's been some stuff in our family. You want to talk about generational curses, like some crazy stuff. Like my great grandpa, and we're not talking 1922, we're talking in the 40s. Okay. Him and his brother had such a bad alcohol problem. They couldn't handle it. It wasn't like they liked to drink. No, they were alcoholics. They got so drunk one night, they decided they were going to have a duel, and he shot his brother. And when he realized, like, hey, he's dead and this is real, and you just killed he shot himself. Jeez. And then a couple years, so that happened. Then my grandparents, they had 4 kids. Their youngest son got shot in the head. You tell me this stuff isn't weird. And he was a rough and tough dude, but it was an accident. Same thing. It happened in the family. It was an accidental gun discharge, because I knew they kept saying it was suicide. And I said, yo, he's a sundowner. Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is?
I don't. A sundowner? Nope.
You know what a Hell's Angel is?
Yes.
All right. Well, my uncle was just like that. Sundowners is like the Hell's Angels, but hi, kitty. But he was top of the top. He was on, oh, look, you're cute. Hi. Oh my gosh, you're so cute. You wave to me. Oh, I like you. And so my the uncle, he was secretary of the Sundowners, which that doesn't mean you write stuff down. That's it's a whole nother thing. It's a motorcycle gang. It's Sons of Anarchy. When I watched Sons of Anarchy, I was like, this really happens. This really happens. Yeah. I grew up in it. And so he died, but he didn't die. And I'm like, he wouldn't have shot himself and missed in the head. You don't think this sundowner knows how to shoot a gun? I was like, no, it was an accidental discharge of a firearm, but they still ruled it what they ruled it, And so that happened to him. Then my brother died, all this stuff, and nothing broke me until that happened with my daughter. When that happened, I was so lost for 6 months. I'm always the one that's don't talk to me about being sad. I have to go plan this stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. I've got to go fix this for everybody. And I just function, And
are you still estranged? Oh my goodness.
She is still estranged, and she just had my first grandchild. Yeah.
I remember hearing that on
actually,
the Cartel.
I'll tell you a little follow-up, which is really, really weird. So her husband, I'm pretty sure that was a whole assignment. And she had the baby. We were sitting at my kitchen table, and I said, this is ridiculous. This is hurting everyone, and it needs to stop now. And right as I said now, my mom's phone rang, and I was like, oh, that was weird. And puts it on speaker because she can't hear good. And it's my daughter, and she's screaming like, and I don't care. She's mad at me or not. I'm going to say what's going on when you're screaming,
your
like
kid is
crying.
screaming, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm panicking and I'm thinking something's wrong with the baby or something. And she's like, Grandma, lightning just struck my house and it's on fire. Right as I said, now that had to have happened as we were speaking. And so lightning struck their house and it hit a gas line and it blew out their wall, and it broke their dryer, their TV, like everything that was like kind of connected in that area. They luckily got out safely, but her husband he's a volunteer firefighter, and he's, yeah, I will say this for him. He's brave. He ran back in and he put it out without any help.
Oh,
he's crazy. Well, that's the whole problem. But yeah, he just doesn't like me because I'm loud and opinionated. And
are they
I'm not.
are they a part of the Mormon church?
No, but I
No.
don't know what kind of thing that they're in. They're Baptist, but they live in a really small town. And sometimes I wonder about that town. And I kind of said that in that episode because they live there and it's okay. I love kids. I have 6. I'm like, kids always like me a whole bunch because they're like, oh, this lady knows.
they have that bond.
Kids and dogs with me. They're like, oh, this lady seems to know where to get the food. But yeah, I'm like, yes, I do. Come with me. But yeah, you're so cute. But so she had that happen and still nothing, and I was shocked. And the baby, funny enough, I'll send you a photo. It looks just like me when I was a baby. And I said, well, you might be able to kick me out of your life, but my genes are there.
Yep.
You're not kicking crap out of that.
You're gonna be staring at me every day. Well, hopefully.
Well, and she's born 2 weeks before my birthday, so I hope she acts just like me. He doesn't. You're fine. It's fine. I don't care how many times we have to wave.
Hopefully that's not. Hopefully, because I mean, I've been in similar situations with family members where we don't talk, and it just, yeah. Hopefully that will not be the case forever. It does, but hopefully that will all hash out in time. You never know.
It's been 4 years, but like I said, it doesn't matter how many years it is for me. And he did come apart. She doesn't know this. He screamed at my mother on the phone and said, you will not let her speak to her mother again. And even though all I said was her baby was beautiful, I'm glad she's okay. I hope she's safe. Like I did say this, and I got to say one thing. I said, I don't know why you're choosing to do this, but moms don't give up. And when you're ready, I'm here, because that's the thing. When it's you and you're a parent, you got this little one here.
Yep.
You don't give up on your kids.
Nope.
You never do. And if she came, even if I was pissed, which I'm not, I'm just sad, you know, but if she came to my door tomorrow, I would be happy. Just like the prodigal son's dad. Like you forget all that. You just love them so much. You
can't. Something that you can't.
He's messing with something. He's messing with something he can't erase.
Yep.
No
matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you want. We've been in we've been in similar situations with me and my family and my in-laws and vice versa, and it's definitely tough, and you just hope that everything will pan out, pray,
work out someday.
It'll work out.
Well, God will do what he wants with it. At some point when I really enveloped myself into God, I started to understand, like, maybe this isn't about me. Maybe this is about her. Maybe this is some lesson that she needs that I need to be out of the way for. So as a mother, that's impossibly hard. But especially him telling, my mom that she's dead to us. Don't you ever do that again. All this horrible stuff. I'm like, wow, like, okay. And she won't tell because she doesn't want to make any problems, which I don't care. I don't need any more problems like involved in that whole mess, Hi.
It's Ellie.
You're
Her name.
happy.
That's Ellie, by the way. This is little Ellie.
Are you happy? You're
Got her.
happy.
She's got her little
Hello.
amber little necklace
I
on.
love it.
We're hippy
Aw.
dippy holistic.
For
You know.
for teething? Is it for
Yeah.
teething?
Yeah.
Yep. I actually heard they work. So
We
I'm like,
did it with our first daughter. We did it with our second daughter, and if it works, I mean, I again,
hey, it
it's
works.
hard
It
to tell
works.
when they're babies. It's hard to say if if they're like,
Yeah.
hey, I feel so much better now that I have this on. But
Yeah.
we've always kept it on her, and it's
She
been
just it seems to work.
yep.
You
But
you got
anyhow,
toe heads.
oh yeah. My fiance's super. Yeah, she's
Super blondie.
fair skinned, and my
Yep.
oldest daughter is uh, tanner than I am.
Ah.
And then this little one right here, she was a NICU baby too. She was a NICU baby. It
Oh.
was which
Oh.
that's for a whole other story. That was an absolute shit
Right.
show. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
tried file. She had her feeding tube right when she came home,
Oh.
and I yanked that shit out that day.
You're like, you'll
Healthiest
be
kid.
fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there was so much. That's a whole nother
One
story.
thing, one thing for the most part about kids is they will eat. I mean, for the most part. I'm not always sometimes if you got a preemie or something that can't, but most of the time they figure it out.
Well,
Kids are
that's the
smarter.
thing is she was a preemie. The one and only reason that she was even in the NICU alone was solely because of her weight. That was the only
Oh.
reason. And so she was eating, but you have to like in the NICU that we were at, there was one nurse, or was it one or two to six kids?
Oh wow.
To six kids, and then there was like twins that had a bunch of issues, and so I
Oh
get it. Like
boy.
my kid's not going to get she's not going to get
Right. Not
the most
first in line
attention.
or
Yeah, because
whatever.
well, and that's
Yeah.
okay because there's other kids that need it more. But we
Right.
battled it with nurses. We would go in there every day. Her butt would be like no bullshit bloody.
Oh.
So if you wiped the tissue,
Oh no.
blood would come
It
off.
was just
It was a
bad.
shit show. Yeah, we had it was an absolute
You're like,
nightmare.
can you just let us take care of our kid because we can do a better job?
Exactly. I'm like, I work, but my fiance, she's a fucking mom. She's a
Right.
great
She's
mom, a
home.
wonderful mom, and
Yeah.
she's home, and her sole
Oh,
purpose and what she wants to do is to take care of the kids. Like, you can't tell
oh
me
my
that my
gosh.
kid being in the NICU when you have, one nurse to
Only
six
for that.
kids.
Yeah. Only for that.
You can't
Yeah.
say that. So we got her home. I yanked that tube right out because they told us the reason why I did it is
She
they
just
told
went to
us
it.
they're like,
Yeah.
well, if it
She
accidentally
couldn't go
comes
home.
out,
Yeah.
it actually
Yeah.
just give us a call. We'll put it back in. So I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal. It seems like, and
Yeah.
not that I went to
Well,
school
I
to be a
mean,
doctor, but I yanked that shit
if
out
she
to help me.
started losing, like if she
Wait,
started losing weight, you would have
exactly.
called,
Yep, I
like,
absolutely would have.
yeah,
Absolutely.
you
Like
can
I'm not
tell.
a
You can
doctor.
tell. Yeah, you can tell when a kid looks health, like they have enough water, like their
Yep,
cheeks are squishy or whatever,
exactly. And it's
and
not our
you
first
can
kid, so
tell.
it would be
Yeah,
different if this was our first kid, like
right,
where we don't
right.
have a
Be more
clue.
scary.
But
Yeah.
that's not the case. And now I have a
By the third
beautiful.
time, it's not your first rodeo, right? You
Exactly.
got
And
all
that
girls.
I got
You
all
got all
girls,
girls.
and that's
I'm
yep,
praying for you, bro.
yep.
I'm praying for you. Because I got 4 girls and 2 boys. And actually, we just found out. Well, he told everybody, so I'm going to just say, but my husband's son we're going to be expecting grandbaby number 2. So,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm older than I
Congratulations.
look. They're all older. My oldest is 27, and then they go clear down to 9.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would have never. Yeah, I would have never thunk. 21 never looked so good, Heidi.
Thank you. I
Keep
just turned
rocking it.
47. I turned 47 last month. So,
Well, happy
yay.
belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
And
we're gonna.
I know that this will all work out. Like, you know what you have to do? The hardest thing we ever have to do, the hardest thing we're ever called to do is to have faith.
Yep.
But faith means you don't get the answer.
No. Nope.
You
And
get
don't
the
have
answer later.
And you don't have the control either.
Nope.
You're
Nope.
not in
We just
control.
wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Heidi,
And I just hope she knows I love her. That's all I can do.
well, I think you're doing a stellar job. I don't know. I know it's probably a little bit later for you, but we're gonna. You already
Oh,
know
no, you're fine.
we're gonna have a round 2, and I'm gonna if this Sunday you're available, I have kind of a group
Awesome.
thing going on as of
Yeah,
right
I
now.
am actually.
Another cool one that I think you would enjoy. We were talking about earlier, but he's going to be on Sunday. His name's John the Fed from How the Hell Did We End Up Here?
Okay. Oh, well, I
And
see his stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
I follow
so
him.
as of right now,
Yeah.
Catalyst will be there. Davey Wavy's going to be
Awesome.
there, and
Oh, Davey Wavy, yeah.
I think it kind of fits
I got
because
friends in there. I got some friends in there.
you do, and I, if it wasn't for them, I mean, I would eventually heard you, but because of them,
Right.
you know,
It just
and
got out
anyhow,
there.
yeah. So we're gonna have a
Yeah.
blast. We also got another gentleman named Drew, from the Drew Cast.
Okay.
Really cool dude. And I've
Awesome.
never actually met him, so we're gonna get together on Sunday. It's either gonna be like anywhere from 6:30 to 7:30, and it's gonna
Awesome.
be a big group thing. So I would love to have
Sounds
you
good to
on and
me.
join.
I would love to
Be
come.
it's gonna be a
Yeah.
big party, and I'm fucking
Okay.
stoked.
I'm down to party on Sunday. You got it.
All right,
Just send
Heidi,
me the
well,
deets and I'll be there.
I know we're doing
Okay.
this. I know we're doing this as a swap cast, so I'll go ahead
Yeah,
and
for
just
sure.
say real quick, and then you can go. But yeah,
Yep.
Sunday Night Secret Society. You can find us on Apple, Spotify. We're on Instagram as well. I will send you my LinkedIn information. Also, just
Awesome.
started up a new podcast with Hank from the 643 podcast,
Awesome.
and my fiance Ashley. So it's called Holistic Roots. It's not
Right.
conspiracy based, no political based. It's kind of just like a self help. We're trying to really just dive. I mean, it go like again, starting with gardening
Yeah.
to canning foods to heavy
Prep
metals to
stuff. Yeah. All
parasites.
that.
How to and so
Yes.
we're trying to live it. We're trying to be it. It's a challenge for all three of us. So
Right.
you can check us out there. And
Awesome.
then on your end, Heidi.
Yes, I'm at the Unfiltered Rise and I am trying to rise above, spread the love, show like what we go through. But as one doctor said to me once at the mental hospital that I work at, he said, "How are you here and not here?" And I'll tell you how, because diligence, strength, and a little bit of love. And that's what I'm trying to pass along. So
That is
see me at
absolutely
Unfiltered Rise.
absolutely
Instagram,
beautiful.
Spotify, YouTube,
I'll-
all the things. Yes.
On my end, I'll plug in all your stuff, and hopefully this will be
Okay,
out tomorrow. And you feel free on
Awesome.
your end. This is
Okay.
just as someone else told me. This is just when I like I'm still just getting going, but I was like, oh, like can I record it? It's just as much
Right,
as
yeah, I feel
mine
that
as
way,
yours,
yeah.
and vice versa. So yeah, you
Awesome.
do with it what you would like. I hope you have
Okay.
a blessed night. Heidi,
Amazing.
thank you so much
Thank
for your time,
you.
and I'll see
All
you on
right.
Sunday.
Can't wait to, Sunday. Send me the link. Have a good
Going
night,
down.
you guys.
All right,
Bye, baby.
hasta la pasta.
Bye.